Shalom Chaverim and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be discussing Eurovision, Europe, and whether Europe has a Jewish problem. There's really no simple way to say this, but I feel like something's up in the world today. I definitely feel like there is a general sort of dislike towards Jewish people in the world. Now, before we get into everything, I've pulled up some sources I want to review with you guys. People will always make the claim, no, I don't hate Jewish people, I don't hate Jews, I just hate Zionists. Most research at this point shows that a majority of Jewish people on this planet are Zionists. Majority of Jewish people, actually over half, actually need the state of Israel to exist and to be safe, and the other half generally still support the state. It is a very high percentage. It's impossible to get an exact number, but many have been surveyed. And, well, most Jews are Zionists. So when you say you hate Zionists, not Jews, you're kind of saying that you hate most Jews. That's the reality. I'm not trying to conflate something. I'm just telling you the truth. Now, if you just hate Jews, say it. Just say it. I'm waiting. Say it. We're going to dive into some interesting things here. So let's hop on to my screen. In reaction to Eden Golan, a beautiful 20-year-old singer who is competing in Eurovision this year on behalf of the state of Israel. She came actually a year ago to Israel. She made Aliyah from Russia. I believe that she was originally born in Israel, but she made Aliyah after the Russian war broke out. She came to represent Israel, and ironically enough, there were actually two Israelis in Eurovision this year. There was another girl named Talia who was representing Luxembourg, I believe. I'm new to Eurovision. I don't know that much. I've only recently learned so much about this competition. But let's get into this little article by The Guardian. Thousands protest in Malmö against Israel partaking in Eurovision. So here you've got a crowd. Greta Thunberg, the great Nordic saint of global climate change, also participated and got arrested, I believe, in these protests. They gathered in Central Square. Free Palestine. Beautiful. So there's your first article here from The Guardian. We're just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so excited to crack into this. So there you go. And here, actually, we've got the next video coming up about Greta Thunberg.
To a car wash again.
So here's lovely Greta Thunberg brandishing a keffiyeh. Quick question. Why is it okay for white people and other nationalities to wear a keffiyeh and that's not cultural appropriation, but anything else in the world that you use from a different culture now in the West is deemed cultural appropriation? I'm just curious. Is it maybe because the keffiyeh has a questionable history? I'm just saying. Honestly, I don't know what she got arrested for, and I quite frankly don't really care. But we're going to hop in real quick to another video. We're just going to start with some video content here just to freshen up, to react to some stuff. This one was really interesting.
Why is Israel in Eurovision if it's not even in Europe? Well, what makes a country eligible to participate in Eurovision isn't based on the borders of Europe. Works from the 1800s and the early 1900s. Palestine was added to the European broadcasting area because Britain took control of Palestine in the early 20th.
You may have heard the term the European Broadcasting Area, or the EBU, the European Broadcasting Union. And this person is making the claim that Israel was added into the EBU strictly due to colonization that the British did in the British Mandate for Palestine. Now, this is true, but this person is also making it very clear that the British is where the colonialism began. As a brown Israeli, which I love to use that term, girl, you ain't telling the truth, girl. You are not telling the truth. But let's keep going. We'll break into it.
Century, and they wanted connections to their new territories. So later, when they stole the Palestinian land to found the state of Israel, they were already...
So they say later, when they stole the land, the Zionists stole the land. The Jews stole... This is just Zionists is another word for Jews. So when the Jews, let's just replace it properly, the Jews stole the land from the British and claimed it as their own.
In the broadcasting region. So that made Israel eligible for participation in...
They all of a sudden, the EBU, because of British colonization, they were like, hunky-dory, Israel's in. Do you know that Jews literally fought a battle against the British to take them out of this land? They decolonized the land. The Jewish Olim, the Jewish people who made Aliyah to Israel at the time, before the establishment of the State of Israel, during the British Mandate of Palestine, you know they fought off the British, sometimes alongside the Arabs? Do you know that? Are you aware? No, you're not. It's clear to me that you're not, because you wouldn't make this stupid video if you were.
Eurovision. The only reason that Palestine isn't in Eurovision, despite trying to join, is because Europe doesn't recognize Palestine as a state.
How long is this going to go on for? No, Europe doesn't recognize Palestine as a state because they have always rejected statehood because they haven't accepted to live near Israel as a state. Both the Palestinian Authority and Hamas and every single governing body of the Palestinian people for the last 75 years, including the Pan-Arab state, the Pan-Arab dream that was there at the beginning of the 19th century, that dreamed of incorporating all the Arab lands which Arabs colonized into one country called the Pan-Arab state. Even they rejected the idea of Jews having self-determination in their ancestral homeland, where Jews have continuously existed for all of time. There has never been a period of time without Jews in this land. Well documented, facts, you can look it up, do yourself a favor, and research that. So no, it's not because Europe doesn't recognize Palestine, it's because Palestine has never properly existed, ever. Even when it was under Ottoman occupation for 400 years, before your fancy British colonization. The Ottomans colonized this land as well. And before that, the Arabs colonized it. And before that, the Romans. And before that, the Greeks. This has been an endless cycle of colonization. The fact that you're choosing to pinpoint one time in history and say, oh, these are the indigenous people. The Arabs were the ones. Or the Ottomans are somehow the indigenous people and they come from Turkey. You're just picking and choosing when you want to say this person is the original person of the land. Because they're Muslim? No. Islam was never dominating this region until they came and conquested. Islam was not native to this region. It came from thousands of miles away. Arabs were not native to this region. They came from thousands of miles away. I've proven this in many a video before.
Even though most of the rest of the world does. So this year, Eurovision is giving Israel a massive platform, and Palestinians have no voice at all.
I don't know if I would say Palestinians have no voice at all. There's been major college campuses protests in America for the last 3 weeks, protests in Malmö, dominating the mainstream media, dominating TikTok. I don't know if I would say they have no voice at all. It seems like Israel is the one who's really being shunned when it comes to a voice or being able to talk about its struggle.
Because colonialism.
Because colonialism. This is one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard. And again, I don't bring it up to say specifically white people, but out-of-touch white people really need to start understanding when the racism starts taking effect. There is so much conversation in the West about racism and how white people don't know how to behave or interact in certain racial situations, but somehow, because Jews like me are deemed white colonizers now, we're just roped into white people now because I'm Jewish. It's to talk all about me and gets to project colonialism onto my people without for a second taking my story or millions of other Jews who come from the Middle East and North Africa into effect. Many of which have competed. I mean, there was an Ethiopian girl who just competed for Israel a few years ago. So, this is a load of horse balls. Let's get into the next article. I want to read to you guys which non-European countries have actually participated in Eurovision. And then we'll take some fun guesses to see how many protests were committed against those. Cyprus. Many think of Cyprus as a European nation, but it is actually in the Middle East geographically. It joined Eurovision party in 1981 with the song Monica. Were there any protests for Cyprus being in Eurovision? No. Did you know that there's a land dispute between the Greeks and the Turks in Cyprus? Both kind of don't recognize each other as the owners of the land. There's a dispute. There was a war fought. Has there ever been a conversation or protest about Cyprus in Eurovision? No. Armenia. Armenia joined Eurovision in 2006 with the song Without Your Love. Has there ever been any protests about Armenia in Eurovision? No. Morocco, clearly not in Europe. Morocco has only joined the show for 1 year in 1980. The North African nation went over to The Hague in Netherlands to perform Bitact Hob. Has there ever been any protest against Morocco for participating in Eurovision? No, there hasn't. How about Australia? Australia, one of the most recognizable non-European countries joining Eurovision. They joined in 2015 with Tonight Again by Guy Sebastian, and they have participated a total of 6 times. Protests? No. So after going through all these different countries that are participating in Eurovision that are not actually in Europe, you have to ask yourself a question. Why have there never been any protests against these countries and their interior conflicts? For example, I don't want to bring out the dirty laundry of every single country, but Australia, ethnically cleansed most of its indigenous Aboriginal population. They are living in extreme conditions till this day, the native population of Australia, with almost zero people recognizing their efforts and their struggles. Why is nobody protesting Australia's participation in Eurovision? And again, I like Australia. It's a cool country. But if we're already protesting for native rights in Palestine, why are we not doing the same for Australia? We come to Eurovision's official website where they have a frequently asked questions section literally all about Israel. That's psychotic. Statement from the EBU Director General Noel Kuran on Israeli participation issued from the 31st of January 2024. We understand the concerns deeply and held views around the current conflict in the Middle East. We can't fail to be moved by the profound suffering of all those caught up in this terrible war. A lot of images from Israel and Gaza that audiences are watching every day are provided through the EBU News Exchange, which we run with our members. However, the Eurovision Song Contest is non-political. I don't think Eden Golan felt that it was a non-political contest when her peers were literally bullying her for being a 20-year-old girl competing in a music competition. Bullying. As a member-led organization, our governing bodies, the Eurovision Song Contest Reference Group and Executive Board, did review the participants list for 2024 and agreed that the Israeli public broadcaster Kan met all the competition rules for this year and can participate as it has for the last 50 years. Look at this section. No other country has this sort of section in the Q&A, just Israel. Why is Israel in the Eurovision Song Contest? Israeli public service broadcaster has been a member of the EBU since 1957 and has participated in the Eurovision Song Contest for 50 years. The Eurovision Song Contest remains a non-political event that unites audiences around the world through music. I don't know if I would say that. I didn't feel very united. Why is Israel still a member of the EBU and Russia was suspended? Because we always have to make the comparison that Israel is the aggressor, just like Russia, when it was actually Israel that got attacked. But okay, as a non-political organization, the EBU's role is to support public service broadcasters throughout Europe and the Middle East. The Israel Public Service Broadcaster has been a member of the EBU for 60 years. The Russian Public Service Broadcaster had their EBU membership suspended in 2022 due to consistent breaches of membership, blah, 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 the war. Why is Israel entry eligible to compete? The European Broadcasting Union can confirm that the official submission from Israeli member Kan has been deemed eligible. This was over the song that was originally called October Rain, which had direct lines comparing to what the Hamas did during the massacre on October 7th in Israel. The contest reference group is a governing board made by the decision to accept the song Hurricane, which October Rain was changed to Hurricane, for the upcoming competition after careful scrutiny of the lyrics. It was agreed that Hurricane met the necessary criteria for participation in accordance to the rules of the competition. And that drove people crazy, that Israel was allowed to talk about something or to sing about something that was done to them that the world is continuously condemning them for. Israel was allowed to convey emotion, feeling, where the whole nation came together to mourn the death of over 1,000 innocent civilians, many of which were just party goers at a music festival. The fact that we were allowed to talk about that, the fact that we were allowed to bring that message to the world, that drove people crazy. That's something you should all remember. Will there be more security than usual this year because of the fact that Israel is competing? We take all the safety of the attendees and the staff very seriously. We continue to work closely with SVT, City of Malmö, and Malmö Arena. So these questions are just ridiculous because it's like And I love this one the most. How will the EBU react if there are protests in Malmö, which there were many? The EBU is a firm advocate for freedom of speech and the right for people to express their deeply held views and opinions. We understand that people may wish their way to make their voices heard and support the right of those who wish to demonstrate peacefully. Also, especially when they're cheering for Hamas and saying free Palestine from the river to the sea, essentially condoning genocide of Jewish people in the land of Israel. Sounds fantastic. The reality is, guys, it seems like there is no winning when you're in Israel these days. It seems like there's no winning as an Israeli. You're not allowed to think, you're not allowed to feel, you're not allowed to believe, you're not allowed to see. Anything that you do or say is wrong. Anything that you want, anything that you want to convey to the world, whether it's peaceful, whether it's standing up for yourself, is wrong. We're being told by the world, don't exist. And I'm seeing this on the day to day. I'm here, I'm in the world of social media. I study this stuff day in, day out. The popular sentiment that I'm seeing around the world is Israel should not exist. That should be not only concerning for me, but also for you. A world without Israel is not a world that I want to live in, and it shouldn't be a world that you want to live in as well. Peace between Israelis and Palestinians is very much possible. It starts when people recognize that we have the right to live here as Jewish people, especially when we were ethnically cleansed from Europe and ethnically cleansed from the Middle East and North Africa. This is where we are. This is where we're going to stay. I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you long time. Goodbye, clats. If you believe in my content and you want to support me, just know your help is needed. You can donate to the channel via PayPal, buying me a coffee, joining my Patreon community, or becoming a member here on YouTube. Although they take the biggest cut. There's links in the description to all my videos that'll point you in the right direction. Your support is the only way that I can keep creating the content that you love to watch for me. Thank you.